Anyway, without further ado, this is Gary Stuart, who was the past president of the West LA chapter, West LA Santa Monica chapter of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. And he is a very good friend, and I am honored to have him in my life.
Great. I love Blair. Great. Thank you, Lisa and Alan, for having me. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's just a wonderful group of alternative healers and practitioners, plus Western medicine, which is very impressive to see integration happening after a long overdue time. Anyway, so a couple of people, has anyone heard about constellations and didn't know what it was? Right, okay. So basically the best way, before we go into what it does, I'm going to tell you how we do it, just so you have some context to how it works. Basically, we all have filters in defense system, commonly called ego, and that actually prevents us from seeing things in our unconscious that are stored away for a long time, since childhood. Stuff from our family system, our parents, our great-grandparents. There's all stuff in our subconscious that can actually be blocking us in business, in our romantic relationships, in any area of our life. How many people here have patterns that seem to show up all the time? Like you pick the bad boy over and over and over again, and the good ones, you say, no, I'm not interested in that. So patterns are formed from our ancestry and our family system. So let me not forget, so how we set up a constellation is the client would work with me. I'd have some family history or whatever, and then they would pick a representative, some stranger that doesn't even know their last name, to be them, so to speak. So they would touch them with their goal. I don't want to pick Mr. Wrong ever again. And then all of a sudden, through their body, all these sensations happen, and we track it back to the origin. It could be the great-grandmother, the great-great-grandmother. So we see the pattern was established. The irony is long before we were born. That's what's incredible. How could we not know our great-grandmother or great-great, but yet we're carrying that pattern by attracting the wrong people? This can happen in business. A lot of us are baby boomers here. If the Depression was part of our ancestral system, 1928, 1929, my parents, that's when they were born, we would carry that let's say, mental framework about scarcity. And we would be carrying that from our grandparents through our parents to us. We're not in the Depression now, yet anyway. But we'll talk about the Federal Reserve later. But anyway, we carry those beliefs and ideas that aren't ours. So they become our subconscious mind, you could say. So basically, when that person is a rep, like say Lisa was working, she's worked with me before. So say we'll just show what a rep is. That way they'll have a clear picture. So I would think of what I want to work on. Say where it's business tonight, say, okay, I have a poverty issue about money. I just wish wasn't there. I would touch her to be either my issue, poverty issue about money, or whatever the issue is, doesn't matter what. And then I would sit with the facilitator over here, and she would get feelings in her body and start communicating, almost like a transistor plugged into the circuit board of my ancestral belief system, so to speak. And then we start to process it where it comes through. And when you worked, I won't say what we were working on, but it went back to something very young. I mean, do you mind? I won't give the subject. Her rep went back to a 4-year-old child within 30 seconds. She's how that just happened in a total stranger who didn't know her. And it was a deep trauma that was seeking to resolve itself. And the client, who's definitely smart, definitely, of this world, so to speak, in healing, was actually quite surprised that it went there in a nanosecond with a total stranger, didn't know anything about her life, nothing about her past, not even her last name. And they were in the middle of a trauma that occurred when she was 4 years old within 30 to 45 seconds. So we worked with that to try to track it, and it was very powerful. And surprising.
It was
no, that was in public.
It was in a room with other people who were the facilitators or the delegates. I forget what you call them.
Yeah, we call them representatives. Anyone who volunteers to represent or support someone's healing.
Yeah, we went back several generations, and I mean there were all kinds of things that were coming up in there, and nobody really knew anything about me, and yet it was all there.
Very specific.
In a very graphic way, and I was bowled over.
Mm-hmm. So it showed, thank you very much, Lisa. It shows you what's lurking in our subconscious. So our ego has filters, but when a stranger who doesn't know you is a representative for you and your entire family in your life, they have clear access to everything, and they're not going to censor it because they don't have to defend against your family. They're doing it for their own family. So it's really a symbiotic relationship happens with a group. I have people that have been coming for God every Saturday night for 3, 4, 5, 6 years because we're learning enlightenment together. I don't own it. We're all conscious beings. So I'll tell you a little bit about consciousness. If you really look at consciousness, it's like the tip of an iceberg. It's above water. You can see it, 3D reality. Oh, it's a beautiful sky. Well, global warming. Okay, but then you look underneath that water. 2/3 of that is being supported. So the physical is being supported by the invisible underneath. Same with our family system. We all come from a long line of dead people, and they're actually supporting us to be in physical 3D reality from a graveyard, you could say, or from those waters of consciousness that are unseen. So the unseen supports the seen, and we're diving into that water to see what, in Lisa's case, it went to a young trauma very fast, and it's amazing how quickly we have access to it. Now, one of the biggest things with this work that's pretty surprising is we don't have to carry this pain. And the great thing about constellations is we see that we're loyal to the family system, and to belong to that family system, if we have to suffer like everyone else, we're willing to do it. We'll suffer through anything to belong. Now, the irony to that is we belong anyway. But we feel it's a badge of courage, like if Grandpa went through that, then I'll show I'm made of the same stuff. So it's a way to show love symbolically. And we don't have to, but we do. Even in cases of severe abuse, the children wouldn't stay in it if there wasn't a trial by fire love to the parent. And I was a severely abused child, so I know. And it took me actually in my facilitator training to see that there was a greater love there amidst, I was so focused on the pain I didn't see how there was a deeper love there, that I would endure that pain to be part of the family. So it's very quite interesting. Trying to think, so with prosperity, so often people, so here's the negative emotions that are most popular, that affect us with, from my point of view. You're going to love me or hate me. So, no, we find that grief can last for centuries. Sometimes we couldn't get the grief out of a system, and then like the reps will literally be pulled across the room like a magnet pushes them to the back wall. And sometimes it was a soldier who didn't have a gravestone from World War II or some foreign war or something. And I bring a quartz crystal with me, a big one, and we put it there just to give honor. So when we honor the past, and we give them their place in dignity, that yes, you lived and died as a victim. Yes, you're my ancestor. I honor that. We don't have to be a victim for them. Why continue the pain and suffering? So in a way, we're creating healthy boundaries between the past and the present for the future. So as long as we honor the past, realize something good came out of it, us, if nothing else, we made it to mostly senior years here. And so something works. So that's the irony of the work. Our family systems work, sometimes in the worst possible way to get us to this place, but it still did work. So we try to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. So it did work, and let's leave what's not ours with those it belongs to. And it restores dignity and honor and respect to someone who's suffered without carrying on the suffering. And in business, so what's interesting, some of the negative emotions that show up is grief. I did a presentation for EBC in Chicago. All 3 people want to know why they weren't at Oprah level. These were, Tracy and I are in this group, all upscale CEO types, wealthy, and they had the courage to do this work, sight unseen, because Tracy, other people trust me. And what showed up, the very first one we did, he was working on why is he blocked from success. First thing that showed up within 5 minutes, which I knew from his thing, but it showed up his representative was looking here at the floor. And I knew his mother miscarried her first child. He could not get to his mother because there was a dead zone. So I'm not good enough. Why doesn't she want me? She's sad when she looks at me. So his whole life, he's been in this loop. I'll never replace that dead baby. So he's carrying the energy for his dead brother, the guilt that I got life and he didn't, and my mother's not interested in me because there's that emotional block of grief there that blocked them. So it was absolutely fascinating how that just released. Another one was severely sexually abused, one of the worst cases I had ever seen. I mean, I've been doing this for 17 years, and that was one of the absolute worst cases. Severe sexual abuse from 3 till about 13, topped off with a coat hanger abortion of the father's own granddaughter in his daughter. But I did not see a damaged person in her eyes. So when we set it up, everyone, it was like all the reps, these are corporate execs, men, they were all zombies. They were all dead inside. Everyone's like this, except for the client's rep. And she still had vitality, she still had life. So I looked at her, it's very touching. I said, who's the only person who's alive in your system? You. Your spirit couldn't be crushed. You were the only one who could withstand all that torture. And I said, you know what that means? You're the strongest one in your whole family line. And her career was taken off like a rocket. She said, I never thought of myself as strong. I was always a damaged victim whose father abused him and mother allowed it and all this stuff. So a lot with sexual abuse, there's a multi-generational loyalty. We'll all suffer in silence. So it's actually good. Women are coming forward, men are coming forward. And after we did that constellation, I asked anyone else in the audience if they had sexual issues. 4 men and about 3-4 women raised their hand. 7 people. Just like that. And so we worked with a couple of people really quickly there. And a lot of times if we accept our fate with these people, I'm not saying what they did is right. So here's the conundrum. They gave us life and they try to squash us. So can we just believe in the squashing, or can we take our life and leave the squash energy with them? So I basically had them bow, all those people we lined up, these are all the perpetrators who injured you in your life. And if you just bow to that experience, because number one, it didn't kill us. Sure, it hurt. Sure, it caused a lot of damage. Can we bow and leave that negative energy with them and turn away from it? So we're letting the perpetrator carry his guilt, shame, grief, whatever possessed them to do it, to carry it so the victim isn't carrying the perpetrator energy for the perpetrator. It's a double offense when that happens, especially when with rape, how society, courts, everything is like saying, no, it's your fault. You enticed them and all that. So society is built against us in a lot of ways, especially women. So I'm always empowering women with this work because so many unfair things happen and the male-dominated society thinks it's okay and it's not. So I always want to empower women because they've gotten a real raw deal for about 2,000 years. But enough about the Bible. Okay. Or the Old Testament, anyway. Anyway, so we can release these negative patterns here, and the ultimate goal is to be happy. A lot of us forget we're doing all this work, we're doing all this healing. What is the ultimate goal? It's not just to have a couple more dollars, it's to be happy doing it. And if I can get back to happy, anybody can, and that's really the goal. So we feel empowered, we can make our dreams come true, we can be happy doing it, and we can honor our roots no matter how bad we think they are. It still gave us the strength. So that's the biggest paradox we see over and over again. As much damage as any client had, myself included, it gave us the strength. It's like that weed that's growing in the middle of a parking lot. How in an asphalt parking lot that's 1 acre is one weed in one crack finding enough sustenance to grow up like a dandelion in that parking lot. So what is the strength? What is the courage of that weed that says, hey, I can do this. I don't care if there's cement all around me. I'm going to grow. So all of us have that strength deep inside of ourselves, and that light and life force sometimes is put out. Therefore, that's why we have serial killers and all the crazy stuff that goes on, because they were crushed and they're taking on the perpetrator role. Other people turn it, look at Oprah. She was passed around like, who wants this kid? Get her away from me. Look what she's done with that. She came from as bad as any of us did, and look at how she pulled herself up. So it's absolutely amazing the strength and courage we have. And I'm trying to think if I missed anything. Well, any questions here? And then we're going to do a short exercise before I close. How's the time? Yeah, pretty good. Anybody have any questions? Oops, huh?
Just show it.
Okay. Okay, so we'll start with a simple one here. We'll have everyone close your eyes. So think of one thing negative in your life. It's been a constant problem. Some of you are healers, so you may not have any, or you may have, or you may have more, because that's why you got into healing. Because hopefully you're wounded healers and not egomaniacs. So just close your eyes. Think of one negative thing that's just like the bane of your existence. Whether it's, I'm guilty about charging money for alternative healing, this always happens to me and I can't stop it. And it could be something romantic, I can't find Mr. Right, the women I'm attracted to aren't attracted to me. Whatever it is that's a problem that keeps reoccurring in your life, just think about it. Feel how your body feels while you think about it. Think about the ramifications. More often than not, things keep occurring in our life because they're incomplete. So whatever it is you're thinking about, there's something incomplete with it, which is why it's repeated over and over again. You're trying to get to completion, but you can't quite get there because you maybe don't have the information. So think about whatever that is, where you feel incomplete, less than, afraid to charge what you need to charge, afraid to show yourself or be a success, no matter where it comes from. It's something that's in you that you know is there. Okay, everyone feel they have it? Great, great. So we're going to have you stand up. You're going to look at your chair. So that chair has just become you with that issue in your past. You're now in the present, right in the present moment, looking at an issue that's in your past. And maybe that's no longer going to be an issue. So bow to that issue or that chair that was trying to teach you something or get you to learn something to empower you. So you're going to honor that negative that was trying to guide you to something positive. And then you're going to turn around to your future, which is yet unseen, and put whatever that is in your past, your present, empowered, facing your future. And the win-win for this